Does what I eat affect my performance at work? Yes, it does. And here's why. In this podcast episode, I'm going to talk about why the food you eat, the fuel, matters so much and makes such a big difference at work and in life. Most people notice when their motivation drops. You know, your mojo's gone. We notice when our focus disappears. When energy crashes halfway through the day, you bet we notice. When patience becomes harder and everything suddenly feels heavier than it should, well, most of us assume the problem is in our minds. Lack of discipline, maybe. Lack of motivation, stress, burnout. And sometimes that's true. Sometimes. But sometimes the issue is something else. Sometimes it's much simpler than people realize. They are under-fueling the system they expect high performance from, or they're feeding it with the wrong fuel. Because your body and your mind can't consistently produce high-quality output with low-quality input. In business, we have a saying, garbage in, garbage out. Sound about right? It's not weakness, by the way. That's just basic biology. You are what you eat. My name is Brian Dance. I've spent more than 30 years working in business, leadership, and high-performance environments. And one thing around food and fuel that I've seen a fair bit is this. A lot of people try to solve energy problems with motivation, when the real issue starts with how they're fueling themselves day to day. Hello again, and I hope I'm welcoming you back to the Long Way Forward podcast. This is episode 44, and today I'm talking about something simple, practical, and often overlooked: nutrition. We hear it all the time from fitness influencers. I'm not one of those, far from it, but I do know that what you eat affects far more than your health. It influences your focus, your consistency, your decision-making, your emotional control, and your long-term performance every single day. When I was 20, I didn't think too much about it, but trust me, I've had 35 years of practice at this. I know how much it matters. Now, before we go any further, if this series is helping you think differently, or giving you something practical that you can apply, please take a moment to like, comment, or subscribe. I'd love it. It helps more people find the podcast. And if you comment, well, I do interact with my community, and it's a great little community we're building here, so please drop us a comment. Now let's start with a simple idea. Your body is a system. And like any system, the quality of the input directly influences the quality of the output. Poor fuel creates poorer performance. That's a reality. Young people might deny it, but it's simple biological fact. Now let's think about this. Nobody would intentionally put low quality fuel into a high quality vehicle, would you? Into a performance machine. You wouldn't. And if you did, you'd know what to expect. It wouldn't go too well, would it? But we often do that to ourselves consistently, constantly. I've done it way too many times myself. You know, highly processed foods, eating on the run, thinking it won't matter. You get excess sugar, energy spikes, caffeine overload, go home wired, can't sleep. All those quick convenience choices. And what they deliver is maybe a short-term sugar hit, then your energy disappears halfway through the day. That can be something as simple as a cereal choice, by the way. Some of them are fantastic. Others are just sugar crashes waiting to happen. Now, when you rely heavily on foods that create those rapid energy spikes, and you know the ones they're promoted, get more go, gives you wings, all that kind of thing. Well, yep, you do get that rapid energy boost, and you think that's a performance boost, but the crash follows. And those crashes affect far more than just your physical energy, because you can be in the middle of a task and suddenly your focus drops. Your mood changes, you lose patience, and decision making becomes harder and worse. And you just feel low. People often misinterpret that as a mindset issue. And these might not just be you, these could be people around you. Seeing you get grumpy, seeing you get irritable, they don't know you're having a sugar crash. But your reputation is paying the price for your food choices. Now think about that. And it's not your mind. You're not a grump. You're not a horrible person. The reality is that the problem is physiological. That's a great word, physiological. Basically means it's of your body. Now compare that to someone who's, balancing their nutrition better. Whole foods, stable energy sources. Those things that have a low glycemic index, which is a fancy way of saying they reduce the sugars, they release the sugars more slowly. They've got better fiber, which means that your body's not holding toxins. You just feel better. And with that, your energy becomes steadier because you don't have those sugar spikes. Thinking becomes clearer. Your body's not processing preservatives and colorings and additives. So your liver's not working as hard, your kidneys aren't working as hard. Your performance just improves and it becomes repeatable. You're still the same person. The only thing that's changed is the fuel. Completely different result. And that really matters. Let's connect this back for a moment to everything we've already talked about through this series. And if you haven't heard the first few episodes, I highly encourage you to go back and binge because it all starts there. We've talked about time management. We've talked about energy management. I've talked about sleep, consistency, decision making. These are the building blocks of a career, a good life. But nutrition sits underneath all of those because unstable energy creates unstable behavior. You procrastinate more. You react emotionally more. Not logically, emotionally. You lash out. And that means you're making poorer decisions more frequently. You lose focus. And over time, those small impacts, they add up into much bigger situations. So if you're always making poor choices, you're reacting emotionally, and you're always having caffeine jitters and sugar crashes, how do you feel others perceive you? And how other people perceive you directly impacts your outcomes and your career and your prospects. One example. Now let's go a little bit deeper. I do this every time. Food doesn't just influence energy. It influences your recovery. It influences your immune function. So poor food, your liver, your kidneys, your waste processing systems, they're all working harder. Your immune system's lower. You've got less mental clarity. Your long-term health can even be impacted. We all hear about it, but it's true. Processed foods, not great for long-term. And all of that builds up on stress because food is not simply fuel. It's information for your body. It influences how your system functions. When the quality of that information gets worse, the system struggles. You probably know exactly what I mean. You ever eaten a whole bag of chips? I have. How do you feel afterwards? Not too bad immediately, but the salt horrors, and suddenly you find yourself drinking water. That's your body trying to correct a mistake. Now, that's what your system struggling feels like. Here's something important about all of this. Remember, this conversation is not about perfection. It's about awareness. Because most people already kind of understand what healthier eating looks like. So it's not a knowledge issue. It's about priorities. And on priorities, I talk about those a fair bit over on LinkedIn. So if you're at all interested in sharing some insights or connecting there, do look me up on LinkedIn. Same name, Brian Dance. LinkedIn /Brian Dance. Connect with me there. See you there. Now, on that, back to the podcast. Forgive the spiel, back to the podcast. Let's pause for a second, and I want you to think honestly about the last few days. Not what you intended to eat, not what you thought you should have, but what you actually ended up eating. Did those choices, answer me this question, did those choices support your energy and your focus, or did they work against them? One or the other. Did they support your choices? Did they support your energy? Did they support your focus? Or did your food choices work against them? That's a really important question. And of course, if that's landing for you, do drop a comment, because others would definitely benefit from your experiences too. Just building a bit of a community around this. Time for a practical exercise now. Healthy eating doesn't need to be complicated. It's actually really simple. People often overcomplicate nutrition all the time, and that's why fast food wins. But most of the fundamentals are pretty simple. Whole foods, balanced meals, consistency, protein, carbohydrates, healthy fats, vitamins. Food that supports your energy instead of simply filling space, like a bad burger. Connecting that through to performance. If you start your day with poor fuel, you've already started the day behind. And if you spend that day trying to catch up, chasing energy through maybe caffeine or convenience foods, well, the cycle becomes predictable. Spike, crash, spike, crash, spike, crash. Chase some more sugar, another crash. But it's not stable. It's all over the place. Think about this. You had a sugary breakfast. Hands up. I've done it. Not lately. Or skip breakfast entirely. By mid-morning, where's your energy at? So you grab caffeine or something quick. Sure, you get a short boost, then another crash. Go chasing a bit more sugar, another crash. But by afternoon, your focus is all over the place. You've got no patience. Everything's harder. Sound about right? Now compare that to a day with more stable nutrition. Balanced meals, consistent timing, no sugar overloads. Everything just becomes easier. Thinking becomes clearer, and your performance and how people perceive you improves significantly. And the shift comes down to, instead of always asking, what do I feel like eating? And it's a decision I'm making right now. Start asking, what will support my energy and my performance? So you're making a decision about what you're going to eat in the future. It's a planned decision. Planned decision gives you planned outcome. Random decision, what am I going to eat now, gives you random outcomes. So if you want to plan for performance, like in anything, like training your body to be fitter, so too with your food inputs. Plan them. Because doing that changes all kinds of outcomes for you. And on outcomes, I want to talk fatigue just for a moment, because fatigue is directly linked to all of this. A lot of people assume fatigue always comes from working too hard, and sometimes that's true. But often, fatigue is amplified by pure fueling. Your body's under-supported, and you're still expecting it to perform at a high level. You hit the accelerator, the gas isn't the right octane, you don't get the performance you need. The system slows down. And once energy drops, your discipline often drops with it. So your poor food choice leads to lower energy. Lower energy level leads to poorer decisions, and those poorer decisions often lead you straight back to the convenience food because it's easy and you can have it quickly. Reinforces the cycle. You've got to break the cycle. That's why improving nutrition affects more than just physical health. It affects your control over energy, focus, decisions, and it affects your control over outcomes. It affects others in your life. Here's something practical you can try this week. Pick one area of your food choices to improve. Not everything, just one. Maybe it's improving breakfast by making sure you've got balanced cereals or a balanced morning meal. Maybe it's reducing excess sugar. by cutting out super sugary foods or cutting down on the sugars you put in foods. Maybe, and on sugar is so bad for us. It's so addictive, but it is so bad. It's yum, but it's so bad for us. But it's yum, but it's bad for us. You know the feeling? Maybe if the improvement might just be preparing meals in advance so better choices become easier. My kids are amazing at this. They'll do a cook-up and they'll make 5 or 6 meals in the one hit, and they've got 3 or 4 lunches there, and maybe an afternoon meal when they get home, which means they don't have to make a poor choice. They've got the good choice already sorted. So start small, one thing at a time, but stay consistent. Just stay with it. And then observe, after a few weeks, how does your energy change? How does your patience change? Because once energy improves, so many other areas of life become easier to manage. Now, in closing, I'd just like to underscore that we all invest time into work. We invest effort into goals. We invest energy into performance. But many people never actually invest in the system that creates that performance. Themselves. You and me, people. Ourselves. And nutrition is one of the simplest, most practical ways to improve how you think, feel, and perform without adding any more hours or any effort. Now remember, energy drives action. Action drives results. And food, good food, is so important for good energy. Now, if this episode gave you something useful you can use, please take a moment to like, subscribe, or comment, or share the episode, because I want to grow this podcast. And I really appreciate your help. This is the long way forward. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you in the next episode.